Hey, what's up, everybody? So now this video series is to basically talk about the right to a trial by jury, and we're going to look at what it means to have a jury in a criminal case, and we're also going to be looking about what it means to have a jury in a civil case. But for the most part, we're not going to drill down into the nitty-gritty details. It's just going to be a high-level overview of the right to a jury, and then we're going to look at some of the actual statutes or the actual statute for a jury. Now, with this said, we're going to look at the statute as it applies to the state of Illinois. And generally, I believe that all states are going to have a similar law or constitutional provision. And of course, everyone knows that there is a federal provision for the right by trial by jury. Maybe we'll have a look at that as well. But without further ado, let's just go ahead and get into it. So, right now, I have before me, I have the Constitution of the State of Illinois, Article 1, the Bill of Rights. And what I've done is that I've actually just did a search for the word jury, and basically, the first section where it talks about the jury is section 7, and it basically goes indictments and preliminary hearings. Sorry, no person shall be held to answer for a criminal offense unless on indictment of a grand jury. Now, this video is not really going to focus on grand juries, but it's just going to be talking about juries in general. But let me just go ahead and read this. Except in cases which the punishment is by fine or imprisonment other than in the penitentiary, in cases of impeachment, and in cases arising in the militia and actual service in time of war or public danger. Right? So basically, to me, I read that to mean that if you're going to be held, right, you have to, and you're going to be in prison, you have to have a jury. The only exception is that if you're not being locked up in a penitentiary or if you're being impeached, I would imagine that probably, I'm not sure why this is actually in the state statute, because when I think of impeachment, we're thinking about presidents, but of course, you can have another government role of which you can be impeached for. And apparently, it looks to me like they can hold you in that impeachment process. They can hold you without a jury trial, right? Without a grand jury, right? And you can also be held if we're in a time of war and they're trying to put a militia together, and you're like, no, I'm not going, I'm not fighting, and I don't care about this war, so I'm just not going to do it. Then the community or the militia can hold you and imprison you for not helping out and not carrying your weight, right? So just moving along, rights after indictment. In criminal prosecutions, the accused shall have the right to appear and defend in person by counsel, to demand the nature and cause of the accusations and have a copy thereof, to be confronted with the witness against him or her, and to have process to compel the attendance of witness in or in his or her behalf, and to have a speedy public trial and an impartial jury, right? So basically, if you're going to be held for a crime and you have a chance to do some time, basically they have to give you a jury trial. This is basically straightforward, but there's other things you have a right to, which this video really isn't about. But basically, you have a right to counsel. You have a right to know the nature and the cause of the accusation. Basically, you have a right to know why you're being risked or put at risk of going to jail. You have to have the right to know why, the nitty gritty details, right? And then it basically says that you have a right to confront the person that has basically been a witness against you, right? Somebody tricked on you or they told, and you have a right to face that person in court, right? So this video really isn't about those things, but we threw it in as a bonus. What can I say? And just moving along, and then it says, the right of trial by jury as heretofore enjoyed shall remain inviolate, right? Now, this is actually a tricky one, because basically what this means, and I'm not going to pull up any case law, but I could, right? You can easily find case law on this. Basically, what this basically means is that you have a right to trial by jury if that right existed in common law. Trust me on this, right? So it really doesn't matter if it's a civil issue or a criminal issue. In a criminal issue or a criminal case, you definitely have a right to trial by jury. But in a civil issue, you may have a right to trial by jury and you may not. It really depends on whether or not that right existed in common law. And when we're talking about common law, we're talking about, in this specific situation, we're talking about things that happen in, the old English days, right? In Great Britain, when there was a king, and then from that whole era there came the Magna Carta, and basically from that tradition you've always had a right of trial by jury, right? Because that has existed in ages since they come up with all these statutes and things of that nature, right? So if it exists in common law, and I'm not going to go too deep on this, maybe this can be a reason for having another video series which looks at common law, and maybe we can look at this in detail and provide some case law. Let me know if you're interested in that spin-off video series. It's really going to depend on your interest here, but basically, if the right existed in common law, then you have a right for trial by jury. But if the right basically was created by the legislators, then you don't have a right to trial by jury. So an example of this would be a traffic ticket, right? So traffic tickets wouldn't have existed back in, the 1900s or the 1800s or whatever period we're talking about. The right for trial by jury for traffic tickets wouldn't have existed then. So you don't have a right to trial by jury for a traffic ticket. So that basically is what that means there. So for the most part, that is going to conclude this video. There's one or two more, and the right of eminent domain. Private property shall not be taken or damaged for public use without just compensation or provided by law. Such compensation shall be determined by a jury provided by law. So if the government is coming in to take your stuff, they see that you have this house on this nice plot of land, and they're going to come in and jack it, and they're going to take it from you so that they can put down a new road, or they're going to put down some public infrastructure. Then they have to give you fair value for that property, and in order to determine what that value is, you can request a jury trial to say, hey, I think it's worth $1 million. I'm not really feeling this 10 grand or 20 grand you're trying to give me, right? So you can have a trial by jury in that situation. And let's see what else we got. This may be it. Actually, that was it. That was it, because we've actually already read that, and I just did a search and it just scrolled through, right? So I'm just going to end this video right here. The next video, I'm going to talk about the actual jury statute in Illinois. And again, I think with these Constitution provisions and the jury statute, I think it's going to be pretty similar no matter what state you're in. There could be maybe some slight tricks or deviations depending on the state. And of course, in the federal jurisdiction, there's also a right to trial by jury. And you know what? I guess I shouldn't say the same. There's likely to be some deviation or some little twist that one state has that the other state doesn't have. So I won't say it's going to be exactly the same, but for the most part, I can't cover all 50 states. Nobody's paying me to do this. So we're going to cover Illinois, and basically Illinois is going to be the model for, it's going to be the context that we're going to use for the right for trial by jury. That's it. Thanks for watching. Leave your questions, comments below. Let me know what you think of this video. This is the first video. There's another video following immediately after this. And also let me know if you're interested in the spinoff series, which looks at, common law and your right to trial by jury as it existed in common law. Maybe I'll put that in this video series. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. But let me know if you're interested in the material either way. Maybe it'll be in this series. Maybe I'll spin it off. But with all that said, leave your questions, comments below, and please share this video, like it, and subscribe it.